Today, I'd like to talk to you guys about seeking discomfort and how you can grow exponentially in discomfort. Now, you truly don't know yourself, your faults, and your virtues, I don't think, unless you're in a difficult situation, unless you're dealing with discomfort. Because that is when, intentions are high, when, your fuse is short and you're annoyed or you're scared. That's when your true self is shown. It is not when everything is going great. It's not when everything's going to plan or better than you planned. That's when it's easy to act with virtue and justice and, all the things you try to act with. It's when you're in discomfort and difficulty. But that is a gift because it is a way to show what you need to work on, and it is a way to give you a look into yourself. Seeking discomfort can give you exponential growth if you take the lessons you learn from the experiences that you have while in discomfort and difficulty. Now, I'm going to loop discomfort and difficulty in to get at the same thing, not as the same thing because they're not, but like I think they give you similar insights and they show a similar side of you. And they kind of are the same in some situations. Because discomfort is difficult. And when things are difficult, you're not comfortable typically. Unless you can get into a state where you love discomfort, you love difficulty because you understand how much growth is happening. I think it's very beneficial to understand that. And it's like when you fail, some people fail and their day is ruined, their week is ruined, their month is ruined, their life is ruined. Other people fail and they're happy because they now know their shortcomings. They now know what they need to improve on. They now have something to go after, something that they can improve on and get better at. So it all depends on how you view the situation. As Epictetus says, it's not the situation that bothers you, but your judgment of the situation. And you may think you are somebody, but if you are never put in difficult discomfort, then you truly don't know that. You may think you are a courageous person, but how many times have you acted with true fear? Because that is what courage is. Courage is when you have fear. You don't want to do it, but you know you should, so you do it anyways. How many times have you done something and you were shaking and you were scared? How many times have you really done something and you were physically shaking? I mean, it doesn't even matter what you were doing. That is courage. It could be talking to a girl. It could be standing up to somebody for an injustice that they committed. It could be standing up in front of the class, giving a giving a speech or whatever it is, courage for everyone looks different. And courage is not defined by the action. It is defined by the feeling you have while taking that action. Some people, I don't know if I don't know if they really do, but it seems like some people, at least back in the day, enjoyed war and enjoyed killing and enjoyed violence. And those people are not courageous. People who go to war and fight for their country, they can be courageous, and a lot of them are courageous. But I think some people go there just for violence, just to fight, just to kill somebody, and that is not courageous. But if you're about to do something and you are petrified with fear, but you do it anyways, that is courage, and it doesn't matter what that is. And if you're about to do something and you're overwhelmed with you know emotions that are not inhibiting you, not fear, but are actually excitement because you're about to go do something, that is not courage. It doesn't matter how virtuous the action is. I One of my favorite stories is the Battle of Thermopylae, and I believe the Spartans were scared, but if they weren't, then they weren't courageous. They The story goes down as one of the most courageous stories ever. You know, I think there was more like 1,000 people. I think actually, because they had a couple other people help, but we'll just go with the Hollywood story that there was just 300 men, 300 Spartans, and they fought an army of 1 million, which I also think is more than the actual army, but we'll go with the Hollywood numbers. So 300 versus 1 million, and me looking at that, I would need immense courage to do that battle. But if the Spartans didn't feel fear entering that battle, was it courageous? Or were they just ignorant of what was about to happen? Did they not know any better because they were bred for war? Or were they truly afraid? But, a Spartan, it doesn't matter either what you show on the outside. You could have conviction on the outside. You could look like you're not scared whatsoever, but it matters what's going on inside. It matters the demons that you're overcoming inside while taking an action. It doesn't matter. You can show confidence and you can show that you're not afraid and not scared, but if you are, then that is courage. And even more courageous to not show it. So it really depends. And the Battle of Thermopylae is very, very interesting because like I said, I believe they all had fear because obviously that's insurmountable odds, and you're gonna die. But those people will never know the effect that that had on generations, thousands of years in the future. I mean, everyone knows the movie 300. I mean, I'm not a historian on that subject, but I'm pretty sure that word got around of that, of the Battle of Thermopylae, and then people started standing up against the Persians. So, in the courage that those 300 showed, they gave courage to everyone else to stand up against, the tyranny of the Persians and not to just let them walk over everybody because everyone was letting them walk on them. And then they tried to walk on the Spartans and they weren't going for it. And that gave everyone else courage. So that's another reason to show courage because your courage could give someone else courage. And like I said, this can be anything. You don't have to be born 2,000 years ago and you know fighting in the Battle of Thermopylae to show courage, or be born 70 years ago and fighting in World War II. That is not. You don't need those situations to show courage. On a daily basis, you are faced with things that you fear, that you back down from. And that's where you need to start. A lot of times I think people say or assume, when the time comes, I'll be ready. When the time comes, I'll be courageous. When the time comes, I'll be able to do it. I'll be able to stand up for what I believe in and face my fears. But if you don't practice this, courage is a art. If you have never done a courageous act in your life, if you've never acted with fear, then why do you think when the most courageous action that you will ever have to take arises, you're going to be ready for the challenge? I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. It's story. It's fictional storytelling, optimism. It's not reality. You need to take the baby steps with fear. Do the little things that you're afraid of. So then you can build yourself up for potentially one day having to act in the face of immense fear. So that's why you need to seek out discomfort and seek out difficulty. And it also, like I said in the beginning, it shows you your faults. It shows you where you need to practice. You can think you don't care what anyone thinks. You can think that your opinion is all you value and that whatever anyone else thinks of you, it doesn't matter. But try going out into public and, telling people your views on things and giving your opinion to random people, saying hi to random people, talking to random girls. Try doing that and then see how much you really care. See how much you don't care about what people think about you. If you don't talk to anybody, if you don't ever share your views on life, share your philosophy, because everyone has a philosophy. And if you never share your philosophy, then why do you think that you don't care what anyone else thinks about you? You don't share the most. You don't share the things you believe in the most because you're scared they'll be shut down. But you act like you're not. There's a line. I guess I don't know where the line comes from, but it's a story, and it's about Zeno, the founder of Stoicism. And apparently Zeno was going to meet a king, And it was said that Zeno wasn't afraid because Zeno, even though back in those days kings had all the power, with one command, this person Zeno could be dead. So most people going to visit a king were pretty, they're on edge. If I say one wrong thing, if the king's in a bad mood, it can be a bad day for me. But it was said that Zeno had no fear when visiting the king because he did not seek his approval. But the king feared Zeno because he was seeking his approval. Word got around about Zeno, and the king wanted the approval of this philosopher. But the king, the line that I like that I was about to say was, the king could give nothing to the philosopher, but the philosopher could take all from the king. And that's courage, because Zeno didn't care about death. Zeno, through philosophy, convinced himself that my opinion is the only one that matters. I mean, I don't mean it like that either. Other people's opinions matter, and I'm sure Zeno thought the same. But he wasn't gonna sit there and make a fool out of himself and lie and basically just let this king force him to do whatever he wants him to. He was not going to do that. So in that situation, the philosopher was more powerful than the king, and that's always has the potential to be the case. The philosopher can always be more powerful than anybody, and we're all philosophers. Whether you think it or not, you have a philosophy on life. You have a philosophy on how you should live, on how other people should live, and how this world should be run, and how you should go about living your life, and how you should go about doing things. And if you haven't thought about it, then you still have one. It doesn't matter. It's like when you don't, it's like not taking an action, you know? Not taking an action is still taking an action. Not standing up for what you believe in is still doing something. You're not standing up for what you believe in. It's an action. So even if you don't think about philosophy or think you have one, you do. And that's something you should think about. So seek discomfort to figure out who you truly are and figure out what lies you're telling yourself. Are you telling yourself that you're courageous, that you don't care what anyone thinks, but the second you try and talk to somebody, you're shaking, you're babbling, you can't get your words out? I mean, if that's you, then you need to work in those areas, because that can only happen if you care about what someone thinks. If you're nervous. And why do you think you're nervous? Because you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be nervous. So many great philosophers have shown just no care in the face of great power. I forget the philosopher's name, but I'm pretty sure he was a cynic. And some of you may know the story. It's with Alexander the Great, and he stands over this philosopher, or he's a cynic, but I mean, that's a philosophy. So he stands over the philosopher and he says, I, Alexander the Great, can give you anything, with like through my, my great, um, my great charity and deeds, I'll grant thee whatever they want. And he doesn't answer. and he's standing in front of him, and the guy has his eyes closed, looking up at the sun, and Alexander's blocking the sun, and he asks him again a similar question, and he says, "Can you move? You're blocking the sun." So Alexander thinks he's so powerful and can grant this man anything he wants, and he offers him, "I will grant you anything you want," and all he wants is for him to just move to the side so he can get some sun. Not caring what other people think. Can be courageous, and it can be your ego. So it's good to realize which it is. And if you get defensive, then it's probably your ego. But if you don't get defensive, then there's a good chance that's courage. And I think we all need a little more courage.